Hello and welcome to another edition of Seek Purpose, Live Dreams. I'm Shaniqua Cousins, your host. Thank you again for joining me for this segment. I had the pleasure of interviewing Miss Denise Hill. She's a radio personality, and during that interview, she spoke about a book project that she was working on, and the name of the project is My Name is Mommy. Well, I am so happy to let you know that that book has been published and it's out for purchase, and I have 3 of the authors that are a part of the book, and we'll be discussing the book, and we're going to be discussing all about being mommies. So stay tuned. Thanks again for joining me. I have Miss Nadine Smiley, Miss Elaine Sanders, and Miss Monique Beidleman. All 3 women are a part of this fabulous book, My Name is Mommy. So Nadine, I'll start with you. I had the pleasure of interviewing your business partner a while back, and we talked about the book. At that point, it was not published. It was still a work in progress, and I'm so happy that the book is published. So tell us a little bit, for those that aren't familiar, about your organization. I said your business partner, but I didn't even say your organization, right. Sexy Moms Rock. Tell us a little bit about Sexy Moms Rock and what the organization does, and then how it led to the publication of your first book.
Well, that's a funny story. Denise and I both have a million things that we do. And we're both moms. We both work really hard. And it was just us thinking, okay, how can we put together the things that we do and make it work for the moms? Like, we were looking at blogs and we're like, we're not represented in these blogs.
Okay.
In things like, we would see things like, how to make a diaper bag into a cute little knapsack. And to be honest, it didn't cover the issues that we as women, minority women, really deal with.
Okay.
Some of those issues of blended families and, you know, things like that, divorce, or just how to keep a marriage fresh. Things like that, we did not see ourselves represented. So it was like, okay, well, you already do this. I do this. How about let's bring it together and be able to teach and reach women on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So we did that. We put it together and we got a great response back from women.
Awesome.
It was like so many women had responded back to us telling us, this is what we were looking for. We can see ourselves in your stories.
That's awesome. And that's part of the reason why I do what I'm doing here. I love it when I'm able to sit and speak with women that I know behind the scenes are passionate about what they're doing, are really living life on purpose. And there's so many of us that are afraid to take that step. But if you can see it through someone else, I believe that it's my prayer that you will believe that you can do it as well. Right. You know, just mirroring that out to other women, that's really the purpose of this platform. To invite women like yourselves that are truly passionate about what you're doing, right, and understanding the importance of partnering. Because you both could have worked and continue to work and do all these different jobs separately, but together you understood that together we're a unified front, and we're more empowered if we partner together. So I love it.
Yeah, that's something I see too often is people kind of, okay, I'm good at this, we're gonna both go our individual ways, when it's like, yeah, you can partner together and make it much more effective.
Yes.
So especially women working together, there's a stigma that women always, they're catty, they fight, things like that. It's not true. No. It's not, you know, of course there are some, and that it is what it is, but women coming together and reaching people on a larger platform is extremely effective. There are so many women that need it.
Yeah, I do. I agree. And I love it. And that's what the book is about. It's about bringing together the skills and talents of women from diverse backgrounds and putting it all in one publication. Elaine, you're a part of the book publication, and before this book, I didn't know you before the book, and now I can actually say that we've co-authored, because again, when Denise was here, we talked about it, and I was like, of course, I would love the opportunity to be able to participate in such because I see it as going beyond just having a book. I really see it as a platform where we've partnered together to be able to give another tool, another resource that empowers women. And Elaine, you're a part of the book. You're now an author.
Yes.
Right. You're an author as of My Name is Mommy. Tell me why you got involved in the book. What was your drive to be a part of the book?
Well, I would say my drive was definitely wanting to tell my story. I think a lot of times we suffer in silence, so to speak, or we feel like we're the only ones going through a particular situation. And I thought my story may be a little unique, but it was, to me, a story of how do you take tragedy and turn it into triumph.
Wow. So let's talk about it. Let me pull that string a little bit. You talked about your a tragic moment, right? I've read your story. I'm just pulling the string for the audience. So you talked about turning in tragedy into something powerful. Really, is what your story is. What I took away from your story. What would you say, or what advice would you give women that are in a challenging phase of their lives and still trying to be that mom, still trying to be that entrepreneur, still trying to be the wife? What advice would you give them? Given your story.
Given my story, I would tell them, one, surround yourself with other people and not to be silent.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we suffer in silence because we want to keep the mask on. We want people to think everything is okay.
Yeah.
And having the ability to speak about it. And one of the things that I say, when you can take your story and you can talk from the point of strength and no longer your point of struggle, then you know you've overcome.
Okay.
And a part of it is just keep moving. You have to keep moving because the moment that you stand still, you can get stuck there.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And there's several stories in here that really, like, I learned so much about just the strength and tenacity of women just from this one book. You know what I mean? And like I said, just partnering together is so important.
It is.
So
And it's so
important.
needed.
Yeah. Monique, you and I partnered on a previous segment,
Yes,
and
yes.
you are a great financial planner. You gave us great financial advice, and now you too are a part of this publication. Your first time author.
I am.
And again, I think it's a great opportunity. What made you decide to be a part of the project?
You know, for me, and to be honest, I was actually a little skeptical at first.
Okay.
Not because of the project itself, because I thought the project was phenomenal, but it was more of a personal thing with me. I didn't really want to, I didn't want to put my kids on blast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was very careful about what I wanted to let the whole world know.
Okay.
You know, so I really had to pray on it.
Okay.
I really did. And at the end of the day, I felt like it was needed.
Yeah.
You know, because if I had something like this when I became a first-time mother, it would have prevented so much struggle. It really would have. So I said, you know what? I need to tell my story as well. And, you know, I don't have to put them on blast. And it wasn't anything horrific that they've done, but, you know, we're very private.
Yeah.
So it was that element for me. But like I said, at the end of the day, I said, you know what? If it can benefit someone or give someone a different perspective on something, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I love that you said that about opening, because when you've published a book or you've started a blog or whatever it is that you do out on the internet, once you've opened yourself up, right, you open yourself up to receiving what others, how they view you, you open yourself up to opinions. But what I believe is that in opening yourself up, you still have to be centered, right? You still have to know who you are at the end of the day. And that guards off, if you would, deflects any of that other attention that may come your way. And I'm sure you see it a lot with just the name. Denise and I talked about the name of the organization and how, you know, just, okay, not understanding that Sexy Moms Rock really is about empowering women, educating women, and there was another one. Encouraging women. See, I knew it. It's not about some, 900 number or something like that.
Right.
It really is about empowerment, and it's creating a platform so that others can thrive. Right. So I'm sure you ran into that scenario as well.
Constantly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We still constantly we have to filter the messages that we receive on social media, on the blog site. We have, I think, triple checks of spam because people just assume the word sexy just is synonymous with sex. Yeah. And it really isn't. Confidence is sexy. Yeah. If a woman she feels empowered, she has that confidence.
I agree. And I feel empowered, Yeah, you walk a little different when you feel empowered, So hold that thought. We're going to come back for another segment. And I just thank you ladies for joining me. I thank you for having the tenacity to step forward and one, creating a platform, and two, accepting the invitation, if you would. So stay tuned for more. So something that I learned from your stories, and I will tell you I have such respect and admiration, was the parenting a child with disabilities. I learned that from both of your stories. And Monique, you went through a similar situation, not a child with disabilities, but you went through having to see a child go through an operation, if you would, and just that fear that can overtake us at times as a parent. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that there's other women that are parenting kids with disabilities or are having to stand by and witness their child go through a traumatic experience.
Absolutely. For me, it was probably one of the most traumatic experiences I've gone through. My son was 10 years old, and he had to go through a pretty major operation, a robotics surgery, if you would. And he's always been one of those types of kids who had a lot of fear, regardless of what was going on. So he was almost crippled with fear. And as a mother, to see your son so scared of something that was going on in his body, it hurt me to my soul. But, we had to make a decision either to get it done or not get it done. And we made the decision, me and my husband made the decision that we need to go ahead and get this fixed now while he's young, while he's resilient, as opposed to him having to go through some things as an adult. So we made the decision to go ahead with it. And I'm telling you, it was a 4-hour surgery. That was the longest 4 hours of my life. Wow. But you know what? He cried and cried and cried before he went into surgery. And me and my husband just prayed. We continued to pray and we prayed. And you know what he said to me before he went in there? He said, "Mommy, I'm going to be okay. Something came over me and I'm okay." So that was nothing but the Lord answering our prayers, because it really gave me such a calm at that point, So he came out of surgery. The surgery was very successful. But I will say that, I feel like I can go through anything because of the Lord. Yeah. And that's the reason why. If it wasn't because of him, I don't know where I would be. Wow. So it was a blessing in disguise, because now he actually doesn't have that fear that he used to possess at a young age. He's gotten over that.
See, look at that.
So, blessing in disguise.
And it's your husband, it's a testament to your husband and yourself standing in the gap for a child and not succumbing to the fear and the pressure yourselves. You were able to stand there and say, "No, not this day. We're going to pray about this, and we're going to pray until it's answered." You know what I mean? And that's what I love. It's like, there's days when, it's just hectic. We're trying to get the kids off. We're trying to do this. We're trying to be wives. We're trying to do so many different things. And there's a part of me that knows that things will be well, but trying to balance that all is well, but I'm not going to respond. That's a fine, delicate line. You know what I'm saying? But like what you said, that overcomes you. That patience, that presence of the Lord overtakes you, and you're like, why was I even worried about this
in the first place?
Right. That took up a lot of headspace, and I didn't even need to worry about that kind of stuff.
Right. And I always call it push. Pray until something happens.
See?
And that's what
awesome.
happened.
That's awesome. Yeah. And he can say now, I was able to go through that. Yep. And not only that, I had a praying mother and father. That's exactly and I love it. I love it. Nadine, you talked about, in your story, you talked about having to parent a child with disabilities. Mm-hmm. And, and you hit on it before. I think it's a little bit of a taboo topic in minority communities, right? To be able to speak out about it and to be able to say, this is what I needed to do to take care of my child. This is what I'm doing to take care of my child, and it's possible for us all. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. My son was diagnosed at 3 years old, with autism. Now, we had never had anybody with any disabilities that were diagnosed. I can't say that weren't there, but that were diagnosed in my family. So when I started seeing signs, everybody told me, he's just, he's a boy. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. But for me, there were red flags. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is not just a boy. This is, they're like, stop comparing him to his sister. And
what type of signs were you seeing?
Well, for one, his reaction to texture was very different. He would, he didn't like soft textures. He preferred rough, like canvas-like material. And he would keep rubbing his head until there were times where he rubbed the skin off and his head was bleeding. That's not a normal behavior. He would be in the crib. You know, you have bumpers around the crib, like, you know, softens it up so the baby won't hit the bars. He would pull down the bumpers to bang his head on the bars. So, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, my baby's going to hurt his brain. So I would see that. And then the final straw was when he started lining up the cars specifically so they all touched and went in a straight line. And if you touched one of those cars, he would lose it. He would absolutely lose it. So for me, that one I knew was just one of the common signs for autism. So I mentioned it to my husband. My husband kind of brushed it off. Okay, maybe I'm just looking too deep into this. Then I went back to work. He started school. He started daycare. The daycare provider was actually, her grandson was diagnosed as autistic. So when she said, hey, have you ever thought about getting him tested? That was the confirmation I needed. Because in my family, my parents, you know, they're like, oh, you're going to have another minority boy diagnosed. We have enough of them. But
we're more concerned about the perception of others.
Right.
You
And
know,
it was that
instead
stigma,
of, the
they didn't want. And they went as far as to tell me, I don't know what I'm doing as a parent. So that kind of hurt. And it kind of made me second guess myself. But I was like, you know, my baby comes first and I have to do what I have to do. So when we got him tested, they, of course, gave us the worst case scenario. And I went home in tears. I was done. And it took my husband, he had a sister, she passed away now, but she had a very serious disability. And he had to take care of her growing up. It took him to say, okay, we got this. All right, it could be worse. And for us, early intervention made a world of a difference. It really did. I mean, it's hard going through it because we were at the hospital 2-3 times a week. Every week I quit my job to take care of him. And it was like, then not only taking care of the child that has the disability, but being able to not neglect the child that doesn't.
And that's key. That's key. And I'm glad you hit on that. Something that I've often wondered is, why is it such a taboo topic in our communities? Why is there such a shame and a stigma placed on being well, right? Because really that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to care for a child given the situation and make sure that they're well. That's really what you're trying to do. Or even as an individual, you just want to live the best life and the best quality life as possible. But we're often shunned or shamed into thinking that when there's something mental, if you would, that it's unheard of, unspoken, just, you know. So I'm so glad you pushed through. And as a mom, I believe in mom's intuition. You know your kid. You know when there's something not right. And I'm so glad you were tenacious and pushed right on through and said, no, there's something that's not right here, and I want to figure out what it is. You had a similar situation, Elaine, and you share your story with us.
Well, basically, my daughter, her name is Faith. She was maybe about 1 year old. Well, even let's go back. When she was born, I was told that there was something wrong. She was missing fingers and toes. So I was like, okay, we'll live with that. And just saying, well, she won't wear sandals, so we'll be okay with that.
Everything is good.
However, we had a visiting nurse. She was a preemie. And she had these head trimmers. And the visiting nurse said to me, Mom, I think you need to take her to the ER just to check her out. So we went, and she went through had an MRI, and it was discovered that she was missing the cerebellum. And so where the cerebellum was supposed to be, there was spinal fluid there. And I was like, what does that mean? You know, I don't know. And never having to deal with something like this, it's like, well, what does this mean for my child? And they said, well, it just means that she would need early intervention, and it's not going to get worse, but it may not get better. And that was a really hard thing to hear as a mother. And I thought maybe that was just it. But then maybe when she was about 1 year old, my mom called me and she says, Elaine, you need to come get the baby because I think something's wrong with her. So I said, okay. I picked her up, put her in the car, and I looked at my daughter, and in her eyes, because she could not talk at the time, it was like, Mommy, if you don't get me to the hospital, I'm going to die. Wow. So mother's intuition, I take her to the ER, and they keep taking her blood over and over again. And they said, if you had taken her home and given her Tylenol, thinking maybe it was a fever or something, she would have been dead by morning. Wow. So they found out she had, it's called diabetes insipidus, which is high sodiums. And where our normal sodiums are probably like 123, she was at 200. Wow. So it's been quite a journey with her, but the thing about support, prayer, and just knowing that this is not it, and I think her name was so apropos, faith, yes. Just believing and knowing that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Mm-hmm. So when I call her, I call into what she is not to be what she is. Wow. They told me she would not talk, she would not walk. She's talking, she's walking, and she's a blessing.
I love it. I love it, and I love the name. I love it. We're going to continue the conversation before Monique busts out in tears here. I'm just kidding. We're going to continue the conversation a little bit more, so stay tuned. So again, I am just so grateful again to be a part of the project. My story in the book was I didn't talk about a specific time of my mothering experience, but what I talked about was really the relationship that I learned to love, and the relationship not only with my daughter, but the relationship that I have with myself now through being a mother and understanding what unconditional love really is. I know that I was given unconditional love as a child and growing up and even as an adult, but I would learn how to truly give it once I became a mother. It was through seeing her as truly a gift from God, and seeing her as someone that I had the opportunity and the privilege of leading and guiding in this world, being a role model and trying to be my best. Not trying to be my best, being my best, because there was a little person watching me. So I talked about it from that aspect. Haven't really had, I could say that I've had a traumatic experience to date with her, but I will say there have been challenges you face as a woman, just different challenges, and how will I be able to explain it to her, or how will I be able to make this a lesson that I could bottle up so that she may or may not have to experience it. That's part of mothering, and it's a part of mothering that I really love and enjoy. I truly respect you ladies for what you've had to endure as mothers, particularly with the disabilities. I think it takes a type of strength to be able to, a special type of strength and an anointing to be able to see a child suffer, your child suffer. It's almost like the kid that's crying in the store. It annoys you when it's not your kid, you know what I mean? But when it's your kid, there's grace that's put on you. So the cry isn't the same. So I really appreciate it. And just, again, through our stories, I believe that people will be better. And it's like if we were to come into the presence of any other woman, being able to share in dialogue, I believe you could learn something different. One of the things I wanted to hit on before we left, I know you guys are doing other things other than just the book itself, but I know you're doing other projects. Nadine, you're into making soaps and homemade biscuits and all kinds of good things. So tell us a little bit about that quickly, about what you're doing outside of the book project that, again, touching lives and making differences.
Well, I'm actually a naturopathic nutritionist.
Mm-hmm. See, I couldn't say it, so I just said making biscuits and soaps and stuff. But go ahead.
But I do have a natural skincare line that couples along with it, inspired by my son, actually.
Oh, good.
The same son, because he had a
because
eczema.
You have to limit the different things that he's coming into contact with.
That, and he had this eczema that I'd never seen.
Wow.
Where his skin would just crack open and bleed on his neck. So it wasn't until I looked into what we're putting on their skin that I was like,
Exactly.
So I started making our own, and then eventually it kind of caught on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a whole skincare line, natural skincare line, hair care. And then I also do like nutrition counseling, and I have programs for people that are trying to transform their lives.
Perfect. And so how do we get in touch with you?
My
for those
website
programs?
is www.thenaturalspath.com.
thenaturalspath.com. I love it. Thank you. And Miss Elaine, I know that you are just, again, doing phenomenal things out in the community, again, empowering women, conferences, the whole nine. Tell us a little bit more about it. Or did I just lay it all out?
You basically
tag
told
on
us.
to that,
I think
Elaine.
a part of what I'm doing is basically empowering, motivating women to succeed. I think that's very important. One of the things that we have to realize, success looks different to everyone.
Yes.
And we have to understand, as they say, how to stay in your lane, whatever that looks like. You may be called to something nationally. Someone else may be called to something internationally. Or maybe you're just called locally.
Yeah.
And if you understand that, then there is no competition.
Yeah.
I'm in my lane. I'm walking out. God has prepared the shoes for us. It's up to us to fill them.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Your company, the name of your company is?
The EMS Methods, which stands for Empower, Motivate, Succeed.
I love it. And it's also your initials.
Yes, it is.
See, you didn't think I knew that.
Yes,
I
yes,
did.
yes. So I can give my website.
Yes.
It's www.emsmethods.com.
All right, I love it. And Ms. Beidleman, you've been on with us
Yes,
before.
yes.
You are teaching us and helping us plan financially, keeping our financial houses in order. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing out in the community.
Yeah, so I'm with Beidleman and Associates, and what I do is I sit down at the kitchen room table and talk to families about getting their finances in order. So we talk about budgeting, we talk about retirement planning, we talk about saving, we talk about life insurance. In addition to that, I actually go out into the community and do seminars. So I speak in many churches, civic organizations, women's groups, and things like that. And we have a dialogue about getting our financial house in order.
Okay.
So yeah.
So how do we get in touch with you?
So my website is www.beidlemanandassociates.com.
All right. Well, again, I thank you, ladies. I'm always humbled and just appreciative of your time and your efforts. I know it takes a village sometimes to get to where we need to get to and be able to go back and take care of our families. But again, you have my utmost respect for what you're doing in this project and outside of this project. And again, this platform is a platform for, I like to say, friends and family to come on out. So you're always welcome to come back, and I just appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you very much. All righty. Stay tuned for more. Thank you again for joining me for another edition of Seek Purpose, Live Dreams. I pray that the information shared today and in every segment will be an added blessing to your lives. Feel free to reach out to the women, learn more about naturopathic nutrition, finances, and learn about the EMS methods. And I pray it would be an added blessing to your lives. I pray that you would share this information to other women and let them know that your story is powerful. Your story is unique. Your story can educate others. Until next time, many blessings.